We are live with Sergeant First Class Webb from the great state of Tennessee. And really what we want to talk about today, Sergeant, is you've made mission. How'd you get it done? What were your actions to deal with the adversity of this year, and how have you handled all the challenges? So you can give yourself a brief intro, but I think a lot of people probably know you from social media anyway. But that's what we want to talk about today. So I'll let you introduce yourself and what you're about.
Gotcha. Appreciate you letting me on, Sergeant Major. So a little bit about me. Last FY, I was an RSP doing some drill sergeant time. So I was out of the field for a year. And I did not think being removed from the field a year was going to be a big deal. And it was. So when I came back to the field, I came to a new team, new NCOIC, new area. I had to start over from scratch. And like many recruiters, when I first started, some of the things that I did in the past were not working. Some of the things that I did were working. So I had to do a lot of trial and error going back through the old playbooks from when I first started to really, really focusing on my new demographic. I went from a rural area where I recruited for 3 to 5 years, and 3 of those years were in my hometown, to now being in a demographic where 85% of the students were African-American, and I did not recruit an inner city school prior to. And it was a challenge in itself. I had to really take a step back and really learn the people that I was recruiting, because you can't recruit everybody in the same way. And this is my first year as a team leader and now an assistant NCOIC. So I had a team mission, team leader portion, and now a actual full mission. So I was a full mission to team leader, and it was new, and the balance and the management portion was very hard. And it is a challenge, especially with new area and new NCOIC and new people around you. It is, I understand what it was like to restart. So that's a little bit of about me and kind of where I am now with my new recruiting area and recruiting mission.
So this year, there's been a lot of talk about Genesis, what the Army's offering, what the private sector is offering, learning loss. All of those things seem to be out in the zeitgeist as the reasons why we can't get it done. But you had those challenges that you just mentioned, and the same challenges that everybody else had. So what caused you to make mission where so many people are challenged to make mission right now?
Being really open on the front end with applicant and parents. So Apple MDT, and even farther digging at, let's even add, when we talk about medical, we need to add pharmacy in there, and ensuring that before we even start paperwork, listen, you have got to tell me, what have you had in your background going back 7 years? Because that was always the key point of 7 years. Mom, what has so-and-so had in their background for the last 7 years? Being very open with them. If something was discovered, well, let's go ahead and get the paperwork done. While we're getting the paperwork done, maybe we go ahead and drop an ASVAB. Usually I am not a guy to test you. I am a guy that's going to practice test you 10 minutes on my cell phone using a simple app that a lot of recruiters use. And if you can pass my cell phone test, you are going to go to MEPS, because I've never seen anybody swearing at the Met site. That's been my speech all year to my team, is nobody swears in at the Met site. If they can pass a practice test, they need to go to MEPS, because people change their minds so fast. So the contract, it does take a little bit longer, but it doesn't have to if you get everything lined out on the front end. And I will say I had one hiccup, and that was when M-Roads first started in December. And it was where a guy had went to the doctor for like acid reflux. But other than that, Genesis has not pinged me. And but that's because we've been very, very open on the front end, sending everything down, and also letting the applicant know, hey, this timeline can take this long, but I need you to get this stuff to me on the front end so it doesn't take this long. So far, so good. And everybody's been on board. And I think that being that way and being open with them has built more rapport with parents and people joining, because I get a lot of so you don't want me to disclose. You need to tell me everything. Now you need to tell me everything. And it's been an automatic super rapport and building trust, and they get the documents back to us really quick. So Just get me everything. Let's get it done quicker for you.
Which is it's kind of interesting, because one of the things that I've been talking about is you don't have control over the process. So what you're talking about is, okay, well, these are the rules. So I got to play by the rules, and I'm going to let the applicant know about that, let mom and dad know about that. And it ends up being way less pressure sales. In the process of getting everything we need to get, you're gaining some commitment just by having to get the stuff we need to get and having been open. So I think that is a good strategy.
Sure, they're buying into their own process. They feel like, hey, this is not all the recruiter. This is actually on me. It's my responsibility. And sort of the ones that are on the fence take responsibility in themselves. And by doing that, the commitment is so quick to north and south that it's like in the back of their mind, oh, wow, there's a chance that I may not be able to join. Let me get in this stuff quick to see if I can. And by that point, it's a wrap. So, and I tell the guys all the time, you cannot beat Genesis. You may get lucky. There may be one of those hometown small doctor's offices that doesn't report. I said, but you don't need to try to beat Genesis, and you just need to get it on the front end. That's the whole point of the HIPAA forms that we use is go take the time, drive around, get it. Maybe you lost a morning, but what you gain is maybe 14 processing days that you don't have to wait on Genesis, some person and somewhere they're at to give you permission to continue processing, because you gave it all on that front end. And you went from a 14-day wait to, hey, maybe it's now 5 business days and that guy can actually, or gal can join the military. So really be putting the responsibility into the recruiter to speed themselves up and speed the applicant up too.
Have you also found that you really need to be working more people in order to get enough across the finish line by the end of the month?
I can tell you that this area that I'm in now, my old area, I was fortunate enough where I'm a high school recruiter. It's what I've always done. It's most of my enlistments come from high schools. And most of the people that I was working already had a good SASVAB score. So I didn't have to worry about test. And, if we looked at the numbers and we pulled it up, I may had to test, 4 people to get one contract in that old area. Now it's probably closer to 7 or 8. So it's almost double the load portion. And with that being said, more of a time management of, hey, this person here has this score, or this person here scored this, or this is their ACT. This is going to be my priority. This person over here, maybe I need to get them the study material they need, but I probably need to focus more of my time on this one that is going to seem more qualified quicker than this one right here. So not trying to juggle it all at once. You have to have a priority list and then the secondary list. Knock out the priority first, because they are more likely and more applicable to meet the standard compared to the list over here. You're not giving up on them by any means. There's nothing wrong with testing them. Hey, you made a 17, you got line scores, we'll get you physical, and then we're going to retest, because you never know about Cat 4 priority. You never know when they're going to open up. So you have that A list and that B list. You cannot get stuck on the B list when you got people on A list. So yes, we've had to work more people, and by doing that, it's been a challenge in itself, because we know that young people are so quick to change their minds. And I mean, you got to stay positive. You have got to stay positive and do whatever you can. One, this is a part of, being an NCO comes into play.
Yeah.
You have soldiers that can't pass the ACFT or can't pass the APFT or something. You don't give up on them. You continue to feed into them, to feed them some fuel. You have to feed fuel to people on the A list and the B list as you process, because you can't just get this and send it and then be done with them for 40 business days. No, you need to be checking in weekly and, hey, how's things going? Is there anything I can help you with? Hey, why don't you stop back by the office? I got some new T-shirts in. Got to keep them, for lack of better terminology, on the hook, so that they don't shake away and go somewhere else.
Well, what's interesting about that, and being in a leadership role, you kind of brushed over a little bit, but it's really important for recruiters to hear, is A list, B list, if you're only focused on that one or two people that are marginally qualified, that's not even B-list people. The B-list people, you can see a pathway to them getting enlisted. They're just not, you can't get enlisted right now. A-list people, we need to focus on because we can get them in the Guard.
Yeah.
One of the problems that we have, I call it upgrading your applicant. We don't upgrade our applicant because we don't do the front end business enough. And so what do we got? We got, it sounds terrible, but for lack of a better word, we got table scraps. We got marginally qualified people that are generally pretty unreliable when you're making that call back to say, come on in, let's see where you're at now. And that's where the volume, always doing the prospecting, is so important. I do think new recruiters and struggling recruiters hold on to the long shots.
Yeah.
Instead of, like you mentioned, I think is critical, is like, this is someone I can act on right now. Here's someone I'm not forgotten about, but they're not ready to go right now. Let's keep them interested. Let's keep them moving forward, like you mentioned. I think that's a critical, it's really time management aspect of the job is.
Well, we get so attached to some of our applicants and you feel bad for them. But at the end of the day, you cannot take the ASVAB for them. You cannot help. You can help them to an extent, but you can't do it for them. And you don't want to sit there and spin your wheels until you have no rubber left. I mean, that's, and for lack of a better thing, I mean, you're literally burning out. You don't want to burn out when, staying positive and working those people and getting those new leads and going and doing more events. You're never giving up on anybody. You'll never give up on anybody. There may come to a point where someone is truly permanently disqualified. But if you've done the right thing as a recruiter and they know that you cared for them and you did everything possible and they feel like that, you are almost like a big brother figure or a big sister figure, or even a father figure sometimes, they are going to tell people about you as a recruiter in your future that may lead to more people joining because of how you helped them, even though you were unable to get them in. And I know it stings, it burns, it cuts deep, especially when you're really tight and you did everything you possibly could. But what you don't realize is everything that you possibly could do that did not lead to that person joining could lead to quality and qualified leads from a younger sibling, a cousin, a friend, a family member, that everything you did is going to end up being a positive influence on that person to have more people join because of how you treated them and how you literally had their back even when there was nowhere left for them to go. That's been my experience with it, is even though I could not get the waiver approved, even after an appeal and going through all this stuff, they've referred people to join. And sometimes, and I'll say it, the Navy has, sometimes they just kind of relax all medical standards. The one person I'm talking about, I ended up helping him join the Navy. He's active duty Navy. He'll still call me and tell me all of this stuff. And that feels good to know that even though I couldn't get him in the Guard, he joined the military because at the time the Navy was able to waiver something that the Guard could not. And he still tells people about me that are looking to serve in a part-time portion that it's, to me, I feel just as happy about it that he actually got to serve because he wants to always serve. So you're not always going to win the accession, but you win the heart and the mind. I mean, that's what it is to me. So
yeah,
you did what you needed to do.
There's that whole orbit of people that are like, hey, the National Guard recruiter really gave a crap about him. That gets around. It's kind of like, if you did something negative, a whole bunch of people would hear it, but when you do something positive, a whole bunch of people do hear it too. Sure. You mentioned it a couple of times, so I'm just kind of curious about staying positive and what do you do to stay positive? There's a lot of folks out there right now. They're kind of swimming in a lot of negativity with all those things I mentioned before. What is your key to staying positive to get after it?
So at some point during every day, you need to do something to better you, whether that is you take 30 minutes to read your Bible, you read a book, you take 60 minutes to do some physical fitness, You literally turn your brain off from everything that is involved with work. Maybe you're having a family event and you notice yourself sitting there at your family event and all you're thinking about is work. And if it gets to that point, you really are going to have to find something, a routine in your schedule. This morning I went for a run. I don't know, as much as I don't enjoy running like I used to, it still frees the mind. But working out, when you go home for the day, sometimes you got to turn it off. And I would say, and my wife would tell you, my first 2 or 3 years in recruiting, I never turned it off. Now, granted, you never really turn it off. We all know that as a recruiter, you never turn it off. If someone calls your phone, you may wait at the right time to call them back. But at some point, you got to focus on yourself. You've got to give the time back to your family. And I tell new recruiters all the time, if you are working hard during your work hours and you're finding a way to fit everything you need to do in your work day, when you go home, there is no more work to do. You get to enjoy your time with your family like you should. Make sure that you're not bringing the negativity home with you. If you feel yourself becoming that person, then you need to maybe change your workout to right before you go home. So you can go slam some weights around, you go for a run, you let it all out, you take it all out that you got there and not take it home. Because what you don't want to happen, and we see it so much sometimes in recruiting, and it's tough, but work life affects home life. So if you are prioritizing your workday, and some of the older recruiters consistent I'm talking about, there is no reason why, especially in the summer, that your work days are not a little bit shortened, because there's not a whole lot of school events you can do to maintain, from the 8 a.m. to the 1500. If you're doing everything you need to do in a 5-hour window, maybe in a 5-hour window, you did 8 hours of work. Who says you can't go do your workout at 1600? Because you literally did your conducts. You did everything you needed to do. You've got your processing. You've got everything knocked out. When you're done with your workday, go enjoy your personal time. I promise that if you're doing what you need to do in recruiting, you are getting your job done. And you know what? Some people out here are blessed where they can have a 25-hour work week. Sometimes it happens. If you're one of those people, enjoy your time. You're going to be here longer. This is not a sprint. This game is a marathon. We see young guns all the time in the field that they get a good jump start in the first quarter, and they're like, "Where you at, man? Where you at on the list? Where's your?" And I'm like, "Hey, brother, you gotta. This goes to September, and this January. You got a little bit ways to go. Don't burn yourself out so quick. So time management is huge, but you got to give back to yourself. You have got to find some time during that day, and take your lunch breaks. I understand we got to eat on the road sometime, but 30 minutes a day, there should be where you turn it off and you reflect, meditate, go for a run, work out, however you want to do that. But if you're truly fitting everything in to a work day, I mean, everything, it's your schedule. You control the applicant. You control everything that happens. It's you are the one that controls this, not them. You can enjoy your time and you can stay in this game a very long time if you choose to do that. And you can be very successful. You don't have to work 80 hours a week to be successful. And I've never been that one. And it's just not feasible for stress management to work that much, in my opinion. So that's just my opinion.
And with everything that you're talking about really starts with first being honest with yourself, right? So I'm going to get to work. This is the work I got to get done. I got to make this many contacts. I got to set this many interviews. I got to do this many conducts, whatever that requirement is, that you're going to get after it right away in the week, like Monday through Wednesday, right away in the day, so when you leave, because we do not get enlistments every day, that day's never going to arrive, that you can feel good that you moved the ball forward. And it is a measure that I'm moving in the right direction. I know if I continue to do this, enlistments will come, which I'm curious about is I believe that. I believe if you do the right stuff every day, you'll get enlistments. it's never, never, never always, but if you do it all, it will always work. It's like, there's not one thing that
I guess one thing that I think about is my drive to work is roughly 20 minutes to the office. And when I first started recruiting, I would make a list in the morning while I drink your coffee or whatnot, getting your child ready for school, of what I wanted to do for the day. And now I use my 20-minute drive to work. I go down through my head. And of course, I keep everything in the calendar. Everything's on my cell phone. But I really will have like mental notes of, okay, I'm in my vehicle. I'm going to work now. It's time to turn it back on. This is what I got to do today. I got a call like this morning. I got a 8:05 phone call with my RU in Middle Tennessee. I've got a Zoom meeting with Sarmary Eustace. I've got to help so-and-so meet with this first new applicant. He's trying to get his first enlistment, and just making all of these things. And in my brain, I check them off as I do it. And then eventually, when they're all checked off, why make up more stuff to do? That's my biggest thing with recruiters is they make stuff up to do when all they had to do was make a list of stuff they need to do. And there's no need to just make up stuff. I've never understood it. I just make a list of what you need to get done, get it done. And hey, if you got some time to make some more phone calls, well, go ahead. Just don't overdrive yourself into the ground. That's my biggest thing I'll tell recruiters. Don't overdrive it. And if you're doing what you need to be doing and work hard, you're gonna be ready for checkout time to have to yourself, or go to the gym or whatnot. Take an hour lunch break and then hit the gym and then get right back at it. So just to the new recruiters, don't make up stuff. Don't reinvent the wheel. Something someone done is near you in your area will work for you. And watch those guys or gals that are coming in at 9 a.m. and they're going to the gym, they're going to lunch during the day, and they're getting their appointments and they're getting their enlistments, and they are going home. They are home by 1600 every day. Maybe you should ask what they're doing. And what one person does won't always work exactly for you, but those people have something figured out. It's always good to follow in the path of someone that's successful. That's the biggest thing when I first started, was watching people. Hey man, what are you doing? What's your work day look like? Okay. Hey, what's your work day look like? All right. So now I know why am I working every Saturday when half my appointments don't show up. So that's my biggest thing is someone in your area, someone on your team. You really need to have a mentor or someone you look up to. Someone out there has a good plan that could be a good starting point for you. And then you have to adjust it to yourself, because we all have different schedules, So
yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing.
There's a couple things there that I think are kind of a big deal. First of all, when people are making stuff up, it's about doing good instead of looking good. It looks good because I got all this stuff, but how did we execute it and what did we do? So that's a key point that every recruiter out there that hears this knows what we're talking about when we say that. Everyone. The second thing that you mentioned, which is huge to me, is like, hey, a whole bunch of people have done this. A whole bunch of people in your state have done it, and they've been successful, and why go through the same mistakes that they went through? And I've not experienced it where a producer like yourself gets a phone call from the new kid and it's like, no, I ain't got time for you. It is like, okay, this is what I do. Take it or leave it, but this is what I do. And so don't be prideful. Take it, try it. And that's what's interesting. You're a mission maker, and I'm sure there's several mission makers in your state, and there's many mission makers around the country, not as many as there's been in the past, but people are making mission. So I think people just need to understand that people are making mission, and they're doing not extraordinary things to do it. So like if you broke it down, like the recruiting activities that have caused you to make mission, what would they be?
Live in your schools. If and this won't really go towards, I mean, I guess OCRs could take something from this, but at some point you developed a list. You have lead sheets of people that were interested. I constantly hit up those lead sheets, and I never delete text messages in my cell phone. I'm one of those recruiters. I could pick up my Go phone and just go swipe, and it may go to April, And there may be, I was having a conversation with somebody and I may just say, you know what? Hey, it's on Webb again. Congratulations on graduating high school. How are things going for you this summer? Literally, sometimes that spark of a conversation. Well, I just graduated school. I thought I was going to go to so-and-so. Now I'm not really sure. And I said, well, what do you want? And literally just keeping those old text messages in my phone all the way back as far as my Go phone will take me. I've never deleted anything. And it's crazy. The reason why you don't want to delete them is the old conversation that you talked about is someone that was interested and maybe kind of get off the hook. You can scroll back up and see that you talked about going to college, interested in diesel mechanic, interested in this, interested in that. So when you pick back up on this conversation, you don't have to go back through it again. You already know what your key talking points are going to be if you get a bite back on the hook through text. So going through old lead sheets, follow up and follow up and follow up and follow up until they just, even if they don't reply, follow up. Now we know if they're an iPhone user and you have an iPhone and it's no longer blue, it's changed to green, well, you've probably been blocked. So you can probably chalk that one up. But if you're still getting blue and going through, keep sending it. I'm not saying send a message every day, but who's to say you can't send a text message every 2 to 4 weeks? And it's crazy how someone changes their mind in a matter of days, weeks. And don't delete your text messages, because if someone hits you up that you once talked to, you know what they're talking about. Social media has been a big help point for me this year. And to the point where when I do high school presentations or any presentations behind me while I talk on my PowerPoint slides, I make sure all of my social media is on the screen. My Instagram account, my Facebook, those are the only 2 things I use. So while I'm talking, my goal is, one, what you see of me on social media is what you get in a presentation. I'm very transparent. Who I am is who I am. I'm not here to fake the funk and none of that. How I act on social media, that's me. My wife does not think I'm funny. Some people think that I'm funny. So we know if you can get someone to laugh, you're going to get a follow. So being you, being genuine in front of the student, and then they may not put their name down on the lead sheet, but if you get them to follow you, you're using social media the way you need to, they could go watch a 60-second video on Instagram or some type of reel you post, and they're like, man, that guy, that's exactly what he was talking about in class that day. And then they end up going, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then the next time you talk to them, they already know a little bit about you, because we know that 1/3 of relationships from young people are started through the cell phone. So if I can build their trust in person, which is very hard to do in today's environment, I know that I can't always do that. If I can get a follow and they are interested at all, I will build rapport through social media. So it's gone all the way back since we started social media, is getting follows, getting teachers on Facebook, getting VIPs on Facebook so that you can learn more about their events as they share things. It's a common connection between you and the real world. We live through our cell phone. So if you're a recruiter that's not using social media, depending on what type of market you're in, it could be the difference between you making mission or the difference between you putting an extra 4 to 8 people in the guard, which for a lot of people is going to make their mission, and for others to exceed, to maybe go to a board. If you're wanting to be an overachiever, I believe social media can help. If you're 2 or 3 off the mark, social media, I do truly believe, will help you get there and will help you exceed by 1 or 2. So social media, engagement with high school, engagement with community. And to me, social media keeps me positive, because I can't get in front of this cell phone and have a negative reaction, because I watch myself. So this holds me accountable. And if you can talk to a phone, now granted, we all don't get it right on the first 59-second take. We got to redo them sometime. But if you can make a video and you can put yourself out there on the World Wide Web, you can stand in front of students and you can talk about the guard. So, and sometimes as recruiters, you run out of ideas kind of to talk about, even though we shouldn't. But if you've made a video about something already that you posted in 2018 that's talking about basic training, you could go back and watch your own content. And that 59-second video gives you a presentation right there. When someone called you that morning at 8 a.m., says, hey, can you come in and talk to my students for 20 minutes at 10 a.m.? You got a 90-minute warning and you don't know what to talk about. Well, guess what you got in your social media? All of your videos, all of your posts. Like I said, don't reinvent the wheel. a lot of great social media content out there that you can use for yourself and even mimic it. So why not use it? It'll help you become a better speaker. Confidence, I believe social media will build confidence, but being in front of the screen, positivity, you'll learn that being positive is the way that draws people in. Nobody wants to sit someone up here where they're like, my name's on Webb, National Guard recruiter. You should probably come join. I mean, nobody wants to do that. Like, you're putting yourself out there, and the more you put yourself in front of the screen, when you go in front and talk to students, it's like lights, camera, action. You already know what to do. Boom, go get it. So I think social media helps every form of public speaking, confidence, and pushing yourself to learn your product and learn the other components product as well. Because if you're going to talk it, you better know it, or you're going to get sharpshooted. I'll tell you that right now. So.
Well, that's some good stuff there. We only got about a minute left before the video gets out, but I think I really appreciate you doing this, because what I'm taking away is be positive, try stuff that has been successful from other people, get your work done. That's something that everyone can apply. And I'll give you the last 30 seconds here to give everybody out there that's got mission to do, to give a pep talk as a drill sergeant and whatnot.
Hey, look, every day you wake up, every single day you wake up, it's you and yourself when you look in the mirror. You can control your attitude. When you wake up, you have the choice to be negative or be positive. Stay positive. Wake up with a positive attitude, hit the day with a positive attitude, stay positive in every type of curveball that comes your way. You're not always going to hit it, but being positive, you can move on to the next one. So positive, 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 positive. While you're at work, do your work. There you go. You'll be successful.
Well, I couldn't add anything to that. Like I said, I really appreciate it. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Sergeant Major.